Rollerblade. The city of Lost Angels, the second dark age. From the rubble of the failed industrial world comes a mystical cult of sensuous she-warriors. Risen from the ruins of dead technology, they embark on a savage quest to defeat the evil army of a demonic warlord. Their mission, to save his helpless victims from fiendish torture and torment. This is the dawn of the age of Rollerblade. Wielding their mythic weapons of martial arts and psychic healing powers, this sisterhood of curvaceous crusaders battles to rebuild a battered land. In this realm of blood and lust, automobiles are rusting hulks, and roller skates are the only escape from ruthless ravagers. Witness the clash of two forces in a cataclysmic duel that explodes in an exciting climax of raw power and passion. Experience the ultimate futuristic fantasy adventure on wheels. Rollerblade from New World Pictures.
Hello and good afternoon, everybody. We are coming to you from Dayton, Ohio. We are a little early today because I do have some SmackDown tickets for tonight. Going to go see wrestling. So I figured I should at least get the podcast out a little bit early because this one is a fucking doozy. So we don't have much trivia on this afterwards. So we're gonna do our best to make this worth it to watch everybody to watch. So let's go ahead and dive into our horror and haunt news for this week. Again, there's not much haunt news. It's still early in the season, so a lot of excuse me, haunts are still working on getting their stuff together and announcements and things like that. So we don't have much haunt news. Probably later in the season we'll start getting more haunt news in. But let's start with the big news of this week. At least in my opinion, the big news. Basically, for those who don't know, Blumhouse and Lionsgate are doing a Blair Witch Project remake, or reimagining as they're calling it. For those who don't know me personally, I do not approve. I do not like remakes, especially of something that's less than 20 years old. I think it's like only like 25. I'd say it's over 20. It's like 25 years old still. I don't believe the Blair Witch needs a remake. But if you haven't been following Twitter, the cast of the Blair Witch has sent out a public letter to Lionsgate, um, asking for some meaningful discussions on some of the gripes they have. They have some pretty legit gripes. For those who don't know, Heather Donahue, Josh Leonard, and Michael C. Williams are the cast, the three kids you see when you watch the Blair Witch Project. When they signed on to do the Blair Witch Project, they didn't have SAG-AFTRA representation, and I don't believe they had any kind of legal representation when they signed their contracts. So being young, being ignorant to the business, they signed their contracts and went about, made the movie and not realizing that they weren't in the contracts. It actually said they weren't going to get any kind of residuals or anything, and that they had to sign their likenesses over, like their personal likenesses. Like this is them, like that's their real legit names, and the names they use in the movie are their legitimate names, and they had to sign over everything to Lionsgate. Um, so in the letter they have three requests from themselves towards Lionsgate. One is they want retroactive and future residual payments to Heather, Michael, and Josh for their acting services rendered in the original Blair Witch Project, equivalent to the sum that would have been allotted through SAG-AFTRA and if they had proper union or legal representation when the film was made. As somebody on the outside, I guess I don't see a problem with that. I don't see anything wrong with asking for that or wanting, the residuals that my talent or my acting would have, earned me. That's simple. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know if Lionsgate's going to agree to that or anything. I haven't heard anything from them. Legally, I guess Lionsgate doesn't have to because they signed the contracts. But if you wanna avoid that negative publicity, especially when you have a new movie coming out about the Blair Witch, um, maybe work something out with Heather, Josh, and Michael. Um, 2, meaningful consultation on any future Blair Witch reboot, sequel, prequel, toy, game, ride, escape room, etc., in which one could reasonably assume that Heather, Michael, and Josh's name and/or likenesses will be associated with for promotional purposes in the public sphere. Nothing wrong with that either. Yeah, I would definitely want creative license with anything that is going to have my likeness, have my name, or anything like that on it. I don't see anything wrong with it. I can't say that Lionsgate or Bloomhouse is going to agree, but yeah, that's simple. And then the final one is they would like the Blair Witch grant. They would like a $60,000 grant, which was the budget of the original movie. Let's not forget that the movie was made for like 60 grand and made millions. Between that movie, the sequel, the computer games, I think there was a board game and stuff like that. You know, people have been making money off the Blair Witch Project for years. But they want it paid out yearly by Lionsgate to an unknown or aspiring genre filmmaker to assist in making their first feature film. They want it to be a grant, not a development fund. This way, Lionsgate, basically Lionsgate can't say, here's $60,000 to make a movie. Let's turn around and, by the way, we own this movie. Not you. We own the movie, not you. Uh, Again, nothing, nothing, weird or, wrong with that. Again, it's all going to come down to whether or not Lionsgate agrees. And being that Lionsgate is a corporate entity, I cannot see them agreeing to any of these demands. They don't legally have to, but let's hope. Hold out hope for Heather, Josh, and Michael that something comes from this letter. So moving on. Earlier this year, Full Moon founder Charles Band announced that his company was launching a new production label called Pulp Noir. For those who haven't seen, I'm pretty sure if you're listening to this podcast, you're a horror movie fan. You've seen Full Moon Pictures, Puppet Master, and just a lot of the other stuff they've done. I know recently he's been buying a lot of the old Skinamax movies, the ones that used to come on late at night on Cinemax. Um, Kind of cutting out the sex scenes and just putting it out there as the cheesiness that it is. Um, so he's open, like I said, he's open. They announced this week that they're launching a new production label called Pulp Noir, which will focus on an edgier, weirder, darker horror and dark fantasy films. Um, they've also set up a Patreon account, which I do have the link to. The Patreon account is patreon.com/full moon universe. I will try to post it in the comments at some point before the end of the podcast, but it is there. If you want to support, this new project by Charles Band. They set up the Patreon where fans can subscribe and show their support for the company while getting a behind the scenes look at the making of these films. So basically, if you put, just like with most things, like with most podcasts or Facebook pages and that, if you go to the Patreon, you give them a little bit of money, you'll get extras. And for this, you'll get to see basically the behind the scenes look at while they make these films. The first movie in the Pulp Noir line is a movie called Quadrant. It is a female serial killer story, and it just wrapped production a couple months ago. And guess what? A trailer has been released. And how would you guys like to see that trailer? Let's take a look.
You said you've been haunted by that image ever since you saw it in a book as a little girl.
You both said Quadrant would help me gain some insights. Quadrant makes your fears seem like a physical reality.
I came to Quadrant because I live in a nightmare world. You're supposed to be curing me,
Robert, you're overstepping.
This is a medical device built for subjects to go through mental catharsis, not to use it like a ride at Disneyland. If you have any brains left, you'll stay away from her.
You want to be free of fear.
So why won't you trust me?
Because I can't.
I know these trips aren't your fears, they're your personal fantasies. You can't be threatening me, can you?
Because that would be beyond fucking stupid. Do you want to help me?
Of course.
Bring her back now!
And we'll never betray each other.
As you can see, that movie does look a little wild. Definitely looks really intense. I'll definitely be checking it out once it comes out. Now, a release date for Quadrant has not been announced yet, but I think we can assume probably like September, October, right around the time of Halloween. It was directed by Ban. Here's the couple of synopses from it. Directed by Charles Ban, Quadrant was written by C. Courtney Joyner and is described as being an unholy blend of steampunk terror and sci-fi slasher, with a female serial killer using the titular VR device to stalk her prey and channel the legacy of Jack the Ripper, and another heroic woman entering the Etherverse to bring her down. So yeah, and as you can see in the trailer, it's got almost got a very Sin City feel to it with the black and white noir and stuff like that. I'm interested. They've got me hooked. Here's a little bit more of an in-depth synopsis. Developed by scientists Harry and Meg, the Quadrant helmet allows your mind to transport you into a world where all your phobias and nightmares are real, while also granting you the strength to defeat them, liberating you from their control forever. But the Quadrant experiment is about to go terribly wrong when Erin, a young girl who's obsessed with Jack the Ripper, uses the device to actually become the Ripper. She unleashes a reign of terror first in her mind in an AI version of old London created by the Quadrant, and then in reality, where she now stalks the contemporary streets, seeking out victims for her blade. The only one to stop this savage new Ripper is for an even more vicious killer to enter the artificial Quadrant verse and bring her down. Again, they've got me hooked on this one. I'm definitely going to be watching this. Also coming out, Stream, a movie called Stream's coming out this. I think they said August. Basically, it's a movie produced by Terrifier cast member Michael Levy, and he was producer and he did play like a DJ in Terrifier 2, but he's directed his own horror film called Stream, and not only has he brought Terrifier and Terrifier 2 director Damien Leone on board to handle special effects, so it's going to be bloody. Damien Leone's involved; it's going to be bloody. But he also packed the cast with genre icons. I mean, listen to this list: Tony Todd, the Candyman; Jeffrey Combs from Reanimator; Danielle Harris; Felissa Rose; Dee Wallace; Mark Holton from Leprechaun; Daniel Roebuck from Final Destination; Dave Sheridan for The Devil's Rejects, and of course Dave Sheridan, well known to all of us from the original Scary Movie as Doofy; Terry Alexander from Days of the Dead; David Howard Thornton, Art the Clown himself; Tim Reed from Stephen King's It; Charles Edwin Powell from Exorcist 3; Bob Adrian; Sidney Malik, I really don't know how to say that last name, I'm sorry; Wesley Holloway from Terrifier 2; and Lyndon Porco from Leprechaun Returns. Like, all these folks are going to be sharing the screen, and guess what, guys? We have a trailer for Stream as well. Let's see.
We can't trust anybody here. Any one of them could be in on this.
Whatever this is.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, we are running a game. Our game, I admit, is a rather unusual one, but I can assure you that it will be far more entertaining than anything you have ever been a part of. So, buckle up. Let's play ball! There's an old saying, curiosity killed the cat. Although it doesn't really apply in this situation because your curiosity has no bearing on whether you live or you die. Just how painful it's going to be. Showtime! Blood on the ground means points on the board.
How good did that movie look? I mean, that just looked awesome. You can tell that Damien Leone had a lot to do with the effects in there because of all the blood and violence in that. Michael Levy directed the film from a screenplay that he wrote with Jason Levy, Stephen Della Sala, and Robert Privatera. Here's the synopsis. When Roy and Elaine Keenan realize their family is drifting apart, they decide that something needs to be done. Roy forces his work to take a back seat, and they seize the opportunity to recreate a vacation from their past. A peaceful stay in a quaint hotel is just what they need. However, that is not what is in store for them. With 4 deranged murderers patrolling the seemingly mundane halls, the odds are definitely not in the Keenan family's favor. Roy must fight for his life and those of his family as their simple weekend getaway truly turns into a vacation to die for. I did not write down the release date. I think it said sometime in August or the fall. It is releasing. I know it's probably going to end up releasing before Terrifier 3. So keep an eye out for that because that's going to that looks like it's going to be great. And finally, another new documentary coming from Arrow. This is something I've seen. I'm pretty sure I've seen this one a few years before. It is a documentary called Papadopoulos. It is a documentary on the famed B-movie maker Jim Wynorski. For those who don't, he is a legend in the B-movie world. He's racked up over 100 directing credits over the course of his 40 plus years of working in the entertainment industry. Among those credits are Chopping Mall, Death Stalker 2, Return of the Swamp Thing, Sorority House Massacre 2, Hard to Die, Ghoulies 4, Demolition High, Piranaconda, Shark and Soul, Women's Prison Massacre, which I don't watch that movie. Recent ones, Attack of the 50-Foot Cam Girl and Murderbot. So basically, it's clear to see why Wynorski is the subject of a documentary back in 2009, which again, I'm pretty sure I watched. I don't know if it's this one necessarily, but I have watched a documentary on Jim Wynorski, and it's very interesting. It's very, very in-depth. This one is called, of course, Papadopoulos, and the folks at TerraVision, I'm sorry, I thought I said Arrow. It was TerraVision that has brought it to Blu-ray for the first time. And we do have a trailer for Papadopoulos.
Jim Wynorski is an icon of B filmmaking, and quite frankly, I don't think he'll ever be.
He is probably America's most serious, sublime, and cerebral independent film director.
It's gonna be nothing but hot chicks with huge tits all over the place.
They're gonna do a documentary on me, and I hate it.
He was interested in low-budget films and, what would I say, exploitation.
Love those boobs.
I play Felicia.
Who was a hooker witch?
He had no girlfriend, no nothing.
You know when no chick lives here, you expect spices, you get books and videos.
It's a living. You know, it beats being a janitor.
Ladies, we're lighting for the final crap.
Maybe.
Where is that scene where they talk?
It was the roughest not sex I've ever had.
To do a low-budget movie would take 3 weeks or a month. And now apparently we're doing it in 3 days.
This is a lesson for all you stupid chicks out in Hollywood.
Now, did he have to do that? Why didn't he just stick to the story?
3 days is not going to cut it, in my opinion.
We're going to crash and burn. I mean, it's pretty and it's erotic, but I wouldn't call that a real movie.
You know, B is just one letter down from A. So it's pretty damn close.
There's a little bit of a thing of a trailer for Papatopoulos. Again, I'm a fan of Jim Wynorski. I like the low budget, schlock from the 80s and 90s. He's been making movies for years under many different names. Like we can go all the way back. Let's see. Alabama Jones and the Busty Crusade is Harold Blueberry. He's made names H.R. Blueberry, J. Andrews, Jamie Wagner. Just he has so many pseudonyms that it's just hilarious. Let's see. Directed by Clay Westervelt, Papatopoulos has the following synopsis. Jim Wynorski was the first to cast Tracy Lords in mainstream cinema. He directed Heather Locklear in The Return of Swamp Thing, discovered Jennifer Love Hewitt, and now the man behind the Bear Wench Project and The Devil Wears Nada must make a movie in 3 days. Yeah, I think I have seen this. Because I think actually the one I think I watched was when he was doing the Bear Wench Project. Because when he did the Bear Wench, he did this thing where people would follow him, or basically he did this thing where they had to have a scene where the girls are dancing in a fire, with the fire in front of them, and the fire he said wasn't big enough. So he basically took some flashlights and just started shining them around the girls, saying, "God, don't worry about it. It's the same thing. Don't worry about it. It looks like fire, and it doesn't look like fire." You could even tell in the movie that he was 100%. They were 100% just using flashlights for the fire, and it's pretty damn funny actually. So this one, I guess this is when he was filming in 2009. Filming he had 3 days to film, which is a Breastwick. Again, a movie I have seen. I did used to watch a lot of Skinamax back in the day. But now he must cut the schedule, the crew, the makeup, and the food to focus only on the special effects. On the only special effects he can afford, the buxom assets of Julie K. Smith, Monique Parent, and Stormy Daniels. Humorous and insightful, the award-winning documentary peeks into the pop-topping world of B movies before they disappear from our shelves forever. Which I don't think B movies are ever going to disappear, especially with streaming services like Tubi out there and things like that. So yeah, that's coming out. Let's see, where is I know it has a release date. I guess I don't have a release date, but we do have the bonus features. You have 3-hour work print of Papatopoulos, new restoration HD presentation of Witches of Breastwick. So you get the documentary and the movie. Commentary with Clay Westervelt, Brooks Larson, and Lee Sanders. Commentary with Monique Parent and Antonia Dorian. Visual essay, Restore the Wynorski verse by Someone's Favorite Productions. A new interview with Jim Wynorski, new interview with Clay Westervelt, new interview with Monique Parent, still in poster gallery, interview with Gigi Ernetta, and just there's a lot of interviews and stuff like that, So yeah, if you're a fan of Jim Wynorski, by all means, look this up. Like I said, I wish I had the date. I don't have the date that who did I say was releasing it? I know this is so professional. I know, guys. I think this is the one that's coming from Arrow. Actually, this is coming from Arrow. They're releasing Papatopoulos, so check that out when it comes out. And that's all the news we have for this week. Like I said, not a really long week. Hold on, trying to get back to where I was. There we go. Not a lot of news this week. At least not a lot of news. Worthy stuff that I can talk about by myself and make it interesting. Um, Again, I'm still trying to. There it is. All right, so let's talk Rollerblade. Um, this movie, it is a very, very low budget movie. And I do mean very low budget. Looking it up, I believe I found that the budget for this movie was $5,000. Oh, wrong. There we go. Was $5,000. And yeah, it ended up making some money. We'll talk about this in the trivia section. It ended up making a little bit of money at like in the video stores. But yeah, this movie was made for 5,000. And if you ever if you guys go watch it, you'll see why. Not a great. It's not great. It's not bad, not terrible by any means, but it's not great. So let's talk about it a little bit before we start it. The movie is directed by Donald G. Jackson. Donald G. Jackson has brought us great movies, such as Rollergator, The Rollerblade 7, Return of the Rollerblade 7, The Ghost of El Chupacabra. But what he is a little more well known for bringing us is he is the director of Hell Comes to Frogtown, the Roddy Piper trauma movie from, I want to say he made Hell Comes to Frogtown after he finished Rollerblade. The movie Rollerblade came out in 1986. We'll talk more about Donald G. Jackson at the end. It stars Suzanne Solari as sister Sharon Cross. Suzanne Solari was in actually in a lot of Donald Jackson's movies, especially as Hell Comes to Frogtown. She plays Runaway Girl, and she plays Sharon Cross, sister Sharon Cross in Rollerblade Warriors. Taken by like there's a few there are a few sequels to this movie actually. But she was also in she had a small role in Mulholland Falls, Compromising Situations, Night of the Beast, uh, Class of Nukem High Part 2. Just she plays a lot, like I said, a lot of Donald Jackson movies and a lot of apocalyptic movies. We also have Jeff Hutchinson playing Marshall Goodman, Sean Michelle playing Hunter, Katina Garner playing Mother Speed. Really, there's no big names in the movie. So let's just go ahead and jump right in because, oh my God, this movie. So we open with the New World's logo flashing onto our screen to remind you that you are watching an 80s movie, and it was brilliant. I always like the old fashioned what do you call it? Logos to start the movies, especially like Canon or New World and things like that. They were great. We roll the opening credits with random scenes. It basically you'd see the credits and then there'd be a guy dressed in welding gear, using a weird electric wand. It's obviously something they got cheap. And futuristic looking to build or repair something. They never really show us what it is, but it almost looks like a go-kart. We'll learn at the end of the movie what it is. Trust me. Now we get an opening scene. It's really just like it's almost like an empty skate park that just got hit by a dust storm with a lot of sand and stuff. But we get an opening scene of Apocalyptic Lost, not Los Angeles, Lost, Lost Angeles. And yes, you did hear that correctly. Lost Angeles in the Second Dark Age. Before we get our first look at what looks like a mutant who has a woman on a chain and he's just dragging her around. Then we just cut to a random shot of a woman in a thong writhing on a bed. She's face down. She is only in a thong. She does not have a shirt on. Um, but we all we see is the thong. Um, then we go back to the mutant dragging the woman. She's just dragging her around. We focus in on a skateboard that's been like planted into the ground, and it has the word "skate or die" painted, spray painted in black on it. Um, we go back to the woman in the thong who is still writhing on the bed, and then it turns and goes to a woman in a red hood praying over a pool of green liquid. Goes back to the guy pulling the girl. And like it just keeps going back and forth and back and forth. Nothing, not establishing anything. Goes back to the redhead who it turns out the only thing she's wearing is that red hood and the thong in it. You can kind of see that it's the woman writhing in the bed. Um, you're still only seeing her back in the thong. You're not seeing anything in the front or anything. And then this mutant baby thing sticks its head out of the water. The water starts bubbling. It's like a green liquid. The green liquid starts bubbling. The baby starts like laughing, and a hand with a knife pops out of the liquid. And then the hand pulls the woman who was praying over the liquid or doing whatever over the liquid into the liquid, and it starts like it's turned red, like saying that basically her face has been stabbed or ripped open or anything like that. So yeah. Basically it's blood. It's supposed to be blood. The writhing woman wakes up and we learn that it really is her having a nightmare. We learned that her name is Sister Sharon. This is Sister Sharon Cross, the star of the movie, I guess you could say. She's wakened by another nun. The nun says, basically after she's having another nightmare, she said yes, and the nun says that she has allowed evil to disturb her rest. Now the people on the good side, between the nuns, the roller patrol, Marshall Goodman, and that, they're all speaking that old English. Thou are having a nightmare, are they? And things like that. It's really really weird, the entire movie, because apparently we've gone, now that we're in a second dark age, even though it's the future, we decide to go back in time and start talking with the old English language. Yeah, sure. Um, we also learned that the mutant in the liquid is Dr. Satakoi. Yeah, it's this little puppet. It's obviously a puppet. But it's supposed to be like this little mini mutant. It is Dr. Satakoi. He is our main villain. And that he has returned to haunt them. We now cut over to Mother Speed. We learn who's the head of the mission, the head of the convent of the nuns. Um, she is wheelchair bound. And we also meet Marshall Goodman, who's basically, he's head of the roller patrol. He works with the nuns and protects them. The mother gives him his monthly provision for his work. We find out that his wife has been killed. Never said, um, like if the wife was a nun, one of the nuns, or one of these sisters, as they call them. But he has a conversation with Sister Sharon, and I thought it was hilarious. Um, Marshall basically says, "My wife could skate like an angel." And then Sister Sharon just goes, "Right now she is one." Like, damn. His son Chris. They also have a son Chris. Marshall and his wife. Marshall Goodman and his wife had a son Chris. He's waiting for him at home. Again, they're still speaking in the old English and that, like, I have to get home. Again, weird, weird. Now we go to the lair of Dr. Satakoi, which is it's more like an industrious setting, of course, like an old abandoned factory. They have a woman in a shopping cart. They have she's trapped in a shopping cart, feet dangling out. She's wearing skates, and behind her, she's still wearing her skates, and behind her are two other women that are being drug along in chains. These are, I put down Sataquism, and we later find out these are the Demon Gang. There's a bunch of different gangs, and it's hard to keep up with which ones. They have the demons, you have the wise guys, and you have the spikers. are the main ones you got to worry about. The spikers are basically skateboarders with mohawks. The wise guys are really hard to describe, but so they're getting drug around. We just cut, just randomly. We cut back to the convent or the mission where we get a monologue from Mother Speed that says she used to skate for fun, and now it's either basically that she used to go out and have fun skating in the light and everything like that, and then she turned around and now it's dark and um she says they used to skate for fun, and now it's either skate or die, and the nights are dark. Yeah, it was a weird monologue. Then we cut to a beach setting where this chick, this blonde chick, in a she's basically wearing bathing suit bottoms and a tank top, with no bra on underneath because it is very cold outside. Apparently, she just roller skates up to this random dude and just fucking stabs him. Like pulls out a switchblade and just fucking stabs him. Um, and for what appears to be no reason whatsoever. Like I don't know. I couldn't tell you at this point. I couldn't tell you why she stabs the guy. She says there and just stab. Skates in front of the guy and slits his throat. Um, then another guy rolls up and pulls a gun and says, and all she says is, "Damn, the roller patrol." Now, let me also say this when it comes to the sound of this movie, and the dialogue. It's almost like watching one of those old Japanese movies where they dub the English over the Japanese language and the mouth doesn't match up to the words that they're saying. Yeah, that was something to get around too. But she says, "Damn, the roller patrol!" Like, what the fuck is going on here now? Basically, this guy rolls up on roller skates, pulls a gun like a Luger on her, and now we get a very slow roller skate chase. Um, she starts to run away from him. He chases her a little bit, and he just fucking shoots her. He pulls up to her, tells her that to get on thy skates, it is just a flesh wound. Okay, King Arthur. So she gets up, goes to hand the officer her switchblade, and she pushes him down. More roller skating chase ensues. She gets to a sign that says the Great Chasm, and the officer catches up to her. He grabs her to arrest her. He says the Sisters of CORB, CORB, will give her a bath in holy water. She karate kicks him in the face with her skate. He goes down, and she skates away. Not before hitting her Walkman and saying, "Damn Satakoy batteries," because I guess her Walkman's dead. We still don't know why she killed that guy. Like, still, they don't tell us for a while. We cut to Dr. Satakoy's, I guess the demons, rather, not really Satakoy's men, but the demons laughing as their prisoners struggle to get free of the shopping cart and their chains, all three of them. And they ask which one will pass the test. Now we cut away again. This movie could have been so much smoother if they had just stayed with these fucking scenes and finished them out before moving on to something different. Like, it worked for Star Wars because Star Wars would finish the scene before moving on to something different. It wouldn't be just, hey, drag these two women in by the chains, drag this woman in on the shopping cart, and let's cut to something else real quick. Like, this happens the whole fucking movie, and it's annoying. We now go back to the roller skating Switchblade Queen. We learn her name is Hunter. She's the girl that just stabbed the guy on the beach. She speaks into she walks into the tube and she speaks into the tube and says the traitor is dead, as you wish, and there's one less skate patrol member to worry about, and she wants her payment. Well, she's talking to Dr. Satakoy. Satakoy says, "Not so fast, Hunter," and he has another job for her. Well, she wants her payment, which are apparently batteries. Batteries are her payment. And she says before he pays her, he has another job for her. He says he has a holy mission for her. Turns out that the CORB, the nuns, have the strongest power system in the world, and her job is to join the CORB, locate the source of the energy, and bring it to Dr. Satakoy. He says he will share his kingdom with her if she does this. That's going to be her payment. Your payment is going to be what may or may not be a kingdom. Okay. Sadakoi says he has a plan. And she asks, what about the Roller Patrol? Sadakoi says he has a plan for Marshall Goodman and the Roller Patrol as well. He tells her to use her ass or choose her brains. Either way, get him the crystal. I don't know what the fuck that means. But okay. We cut back to Mother Speed, and she's just basically watching the girls train with weapons. Like they have swords, switchblades, and nunchucks. That's it. Yeah, they had nunchucks. Then we go back to Sadakoi's men, who are now telling the two women are chained naked. One girl's still in the shopping cart, like just stuck there, I guess. But they're telling the women that are in the chains to start getting naked, or the one in the shopping cart dies. So the men just go ahead and start ripping their clothes off. The first nudity in the movie. This is weird too. We're only 12 minutes into this movie. First nudity in the movie, 12 minutes 47 seconds. If you're looking for that kind of thing. We cut again back. We again cut back to the roller nuns training with the swords and nunchucks, and then with like bad synthesizer music. It just cuts back and forth and back and forth. It's just weird. The men are. We go back to the men. The men are still stripping the captured nuns. Let's go back to Mother Speed, watching the women show off their skills. A woman bursts in to tell Mother Speed that that the demons have captured 3 of their nuns, or 3 of their sisters. I'm sorry, they don't ever call them nuns, but they're fucking nuns. She says to calm thyself and remember to use blows that do not injure but stun. What the hell? And then we learn what the CORB, CORB means. She says the Cosmic Order of Rollerblade is the only force on Earth where all weapons and techniques are converted into tools of love. What the fuck does that mean? You're gonna friggin' use a dildo to rape somebody with a nunchuck or something? What the fuck? She orders Sister Sarah to take command for the sisters to prepare for combat. We get a quick montage of basically the women just tying their skates. Back to the demons, still trying to get the clothes. They still haven't got the clothes off the slaves. I'll take it back. They've got them. They got it off one of the women, but not the other one. They finally get both women down to just their thongs. Again, you got breasts, but they're in their thongs still. And they order the women to duel to the death, or their queen gets nipped. So if they don't fight to the death in front of these guys, they're going to go and kill Sister or Mother Speed? And basically we just now get the full-on hair-pulling, rolling around topless cat fight that you'd normally get in the 80s. Almost like it's like bordering on porn at this point, but we cut away to the Holy Army on their way to rescue the 3 of them. Basically, it's just the women skating in the middle of the desert. And we keep cutting back between the cat fight and then the sisters coming to the rescue. The Holy Army finally arrives at the bay of wherever they're holding these women. And we get a battle scene that we can hardly see, as there are a lot of dark places in this building. But we can hear the struggle. You can kind of see like kicks being thrown, like shitty kicks being thrown in that. The 2 women who are cat fighting have stopped. One demon runs over and cuts the throat of the blonde in the cart, and the sisters have appeared, and they start fighting with these 3 guys. Sister Sharon goes over to the girl in the shopping cart, takes her switchblade out, and heals the woman in the shopping cart. Like, she just pulls a knife out and just says something like along the lines of, give me the power to heal, blah blah blah, and it heals like the woman's slit throat. Okay, that didn't really explain that before, but okay. We don't really get a finish of the battle before we cut away to a dust storm. Basically the sisters are still fighting the demon, the gang, the demons gang, whatever they want to call themselves. But then we see Hunter enters the screen, and we see some. Oh, we see some struggling. There's a bunch of basically we hear some struggle, like sounds of struggling. We cut to a group of guys that they got this one dude tied up to a fence, and they're just beating the shit out of him with their skateboards and that. This is when we know that they're called the Spikers, as they all have 80s style mohawks. And fights, and she fights. She basically goes and fights him off after saving the chained up guy. She cuts the guy loose. Basically, she tells them, the three of them, that she can beat them all with her hands tied behind her back. So naturally, she lets them tie her hands behind her back. Um, then they proceed to beat the living shit out of her, like just bruises, bloody, all that good stuff. She looks up, says thank you, and just. Oh, they used. I take it back. Before that, they take her switchblade out of her shoe and cut the back of her shirt, and basically cut her back up. She says thanks and just basically kicks all three of them in the face, and then she skates away. She skates, they show her skating for a little bit, and then she skates up to the mission, bruised and bloody, and her hands still tied behind her back. She kicks the door to knock, but the nuns are listening to some kind of synthesized music from a player that uses a crank to play. She kicks again, and apparently the dog hears her knocking. Someone answers and tells them she seeks sanctuary. They bring her in. She wakes up, and they've taken her, and she asks where her skates are. They've taken her skates to fix them and oil them, and make them good as new. They also take her. They also take her Walkman as an offering to Mother Speed. And again, they used the trick with the switchblade to heal. At this point, we learned it is Sister Sharon doing all this. So she hears her with the switchblade, and Hunter says she wants to join the other. So Sister Sharon goes, "Oh yeah, sure, why not? We know you're evil now. We know who you are. We know you're evil, but yeah, sure, why not? Like, come and join us." So then we go to Mother Speed, who is annoyed that that Sister Sharon accepted Hunter into the order so easily. Like, bitch, you trust her? Like, she's a murderer. She's murdered people. Okay. The young nun Sister Sharon says she offers to be her teacher, and Mother Speed says she must be tested first. We now cut over to Marshall Goodman with his son Chris, who is learning to skate. Chris is not very good at skating because he keeps falling on his ass. The same thing I would do if I tried to skate. I am not a roller skater, and especially at my age and my weight, I should not be anywhere near a pair of rollerblades. So Marshall Goodman gets a call from one of his deputies in the acid zone. They found the bodies of a patrol officer and the traitor basically the traitor that Hunter killed earlier. We then cut to Sister Sharon teaching Hunter about the ways of the mission of the sisters. We cut again to a ceremony where basically they're giving Hunter a new name. Mother Speed is in some kind of a trance thing, and they decide to name Hunter Sister Fortune, and they're going to convert her switchblade into a tool of love. It's a different switchblade, but now it apparently only stabs with love. Sure. Marshall Goodman is still, we go back to Marshall Goodman. He's still teaching this kid to skate. Tells this kid to stay, and basically he has to go to work now. Tells this kid to stay inside until he learns how to skate, as it is too dangerous to go outside on foot. He tells him not to go to the Devil's Playground, and basically, I have spoken. He talks in this "I have spoken. You will obey my orders" type of language. It's just funny to listen to. We cut to Dr. Sadakoi, who wants to kidnap Chris. He basically says he wants to kidnap Chris. That's his plan. That's his plan, basically, to distract Marshall Goodman, is to kidnap Chris. We meet a guy named Waco who's a bum with a shopping cart. They send Waco, who has experience with the area and will collect the child alive. So Chris, of course, disobeys his dad as he grabs two guns out of a box and says, "First I'll learn to shoot like Dad, and then I'll learn to skate like Dad." Yeah, sure, you dumb little shit. Go outside. They already told you it's not safe. You know you're in the apocalypse. Yeah, fuck this kid. Needless to say, I wrote down this probably won't end well. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. So he leaves his skates behind and goes out to the park. He completely ignores a sign that says off limits while pretending to be a cop. I mean, he's like doing the whole leaning against the wall, looking around, guns aimed up, all that good stuff all the stuff we used to do when we were younger playing cops. So of course Waco snatches his little ass up. He gets shoved into a cart and he gets taken to the wise men, the wise guys. Um, they argue a little bit with Waco, but they pay him with some oil, some skate oil, I guess. Exchange the kids, and for whatever reason, one of the wise guys turns around and just fucking shoots Waco with a crossbow. Even Waco's like, "What did I do to deserve this?" We don't know either, Waco. We don't know either. So the thugs, I say thugs, but they're wise guys. The wise guys start on their journey to bring Chris to Dr. Sadakoi. We now cut back to the mission where Mother Speed is watching basically we learned this. I put down where Mother Speed is watching as 3 naked women are praying over an altar. We learned these are the women from earlier, the 2 women who were catfighting earlier, and then the woman whose throat was slit. And she still has the blood and the wound on her throat. The women who were catfighting each other, they got bruised. They got bruises on each other. They got blood. Basically your basic wounds if you were in a fist fight early. If you were in a fist fight. Mother Speed does the motions of there's this altar thing and it's smoking. She does the motions of the cross on it like it's some sort of special pool, like it's the fountain of fucking youth or something. It opens up. There's bubbling water inside, and we pan out and find it's a fucking hot tub. It's a full on regular ass plug into the wall hot tub. Like, come on, you try harder. I know your budget's only $5,000. Try harder. So basically now the 3 women are told that they have to cleanse each other if they are truly to be sisters. So basically the naked women, and we get full on, full frontal, full back. You get all 3 Bs. We get breast, we get bush, we get butts. As the women, climb into the water and they just basically start taking like handfuls of water and dropping it on each other, and they're trying to act sexy and all that good stuff. So, and they're acting like they're enjoying it. That Mother Speed watches on with pride and does the motions of the cross again while this whole thing is going on. They stand up and we get more full body, basically your full body nude scenes at 37 minutes and 57 seconds into the movie, if you're looking for that sort of thing. And they have all of a sudden healed from their injuries and they exit the hot tub. All right, something we haven't talked about yet too is the symbol. There is a smiley face symbol that's on all the crosses, all the doors, and everything like that. That they feature a lot of. So yeah, we go outside the Sister Sharon and Sister Fortune, who is Hunter. I'm going to call her Hunter because that's what she basically goes by, and that's easier to remember. So Sharon tells Hunter that Mother Speed senses great hatred in her heart. So apparently Hunter's Anakin fucking Skywalker, and Mother Speed is Yoda. Like, I know that the movies with Anakin Skywalker came out like 10, 15 years later, but goddamn. Sharon reminds Hunter that they are to use their blades to heal and not to hurt. Says that she needs to go to the jousting area and get some more of the rage out of her system. So I guess where they go, they don't really say it's the jousting grounds, but I'm assuming that it is. They both pull out their blades and they take their tunics off, and they're basically staying in there and work out where about to train, I guess you could say. Now we just cut over to the Spikers. They're skateboarding, just randomly skateboarding down a pathway, and basically deputy, I can't remember the guy's name now, but he's a guy pretending to be Jamaican. He tells Goodman Man that Spikers have trespassed on their holy boundary. We cut back to Sharon again. This is that shit they're doing. Cut back and forth. We cut back to Sharon and Hunter training, and Sharon has Hunter pinned down with her blade to her throat, and she says, "Thou cannot be defeated, sister, unless thou wants to be." They put their uniforms back on, I guess their tunics back on, and they head back to the mission. The Spikers appear as they're heading back to the mission, and they start hassling the nuns. One asks Hunter, "Hey, don't I know you?" Before getting kicked in the face, and the Spikers get the shit beat out of them. Goodman and the officers show up and basically give chase to him. Sharon asks if Hunter truly knows those Spikers, and she says they were the ones who attacked her. Sharon says, "Praise be that she held her hand for vengeance. That this means that she is truly one of them, because she basically didn't kill the guys for vengeance and all that good stuff." The Spikers basically get caught. They get tossed into a cell by Goodman, and they start crying. They didn't mean to trespass. And one of them says, "Hey, if you let us go, we'll reveal a secret about one of the sisters." We cut to the mother. We get to cut to Mother Speed, and the three women from the hot tub are still butt ass naked, standing in front of her. Boobs, bush, and butts full on display. She blesses the three sisters, and then they retrieve their tunics and from her feet, and they skate away. We then cut back to Sharon and Hunter, who ask what else Mother Speed wants her to do. Hunter asks Sharon what Mother Speed wants her to do to prove her loyalty, and Sharon says the final test awaits her. We go on. We get a. We go on and we get a. There's an altar with a bunch of Hunter's stuff on it. A nun comes in and says tells Hunter that Mother Speed wants her to destroy what is left of her worldly possessions. Basically, it's her switchblade, her Walkman, and a couple of things. And in the back, almost like it's in Hunter's mind, we hear Sadakoi laughing. Sadakoi, and she gets the flashback of Sadakoi. "I'll share my kingdom." Well, Hunter says, "Fuck this," takes off the nun's tunic, or the sister's tunic, and grabs her skates and her belongings. Hunter knocks out a nun, basically the nun guarding the crystal. She takes the crystal, and a smiley face alarm goes off. Hunter slips away. Sharon finds the discarded uniform and knows Hunter has gone back to evil. Hunter is outside and almost gets hit with an arrow as she escapes. One of the sisters fires like an arrow from a crossbow at her. Misses, and that's it. She gets away that easily. Mother Speed shows up and tells Sharon the power crystal was stolen. Sharon accepts the blame, and Mother Speed tells her to use all the techniques she taught her and get the crystal back at once. Now Goodman shows up and says Chris has been taken. That Chris disobeyed his father's orders and went to the Devil's playgrounds without his skates. And there's literally an audible from the nuns, like all of them. It's fucking hilarious. Mother Speed says it's the work of Dr. Sadakoi. Sharon offers to help avenge Goodman's wife's death and save the boy. Goodman says he must go to see Sadakoi alone, and his guards will make sure none of the sisters leave the mission. He has spoken. We now cut to Hunter grabbing her bag she had stashed somewhere, and then skating away. We cut back to Mother Speed to get a quick story of her and Dr. Sadakoi. We find out that Sadakoi is the one who put her in the wheelchair, and that because she hated Sadakoi so much, it prevented her sisters from healing her legs. So now she is stuck in the wheelchair forever. And now that the marshal is blind with rage, he will surely perish. She tells Sister Sharon to help Goodman, to go help Marshal Goodman, and to retrieve this crystal above all else. The CORB need the crystal to heal the world. Sharon vows to find the crystal and save the boy, or she will die trying. Mother Speed tells her to convince Marshall to allow her to join his quest and Godspeed. And she holds out her fist like she's going for a dab, and Sharon's like, "Nah, no, thank you," and just walks away. Turns around and walks away, like fucking leaves her hanging. Sister Sharon tries to get past the deputy who's blocking the exit of the mission. She pushes him down. He starts chasing her. The deputy threatens to shoot her. Goodman just says, "Nah, let her go," and tells him that he'll head her off at the sky bridge. Marshall tries to stop, so Marshall jumps in front to stop her, and he just gets knocked on his ass while she skates past him. Spikers show up, and Sharon dispatches them pretty easily as well. Now we still get a chase scene between Goodman and Sharon. Sister Sharon. Goodman catches Sister Sharon and gives her and says he gave a strict order for her not to leave the convent, and for her her leaving puts his son's life in danger. She says she needs to retrieve the crystal, or else it won't matter if he saves Chris or not. So he puts her in handcuffs and says her presence will only provoke Dr. Sadikoy. He wants to talk to Sadikoy and try to make amends. We cut back to Dr. Sadikoy's base, and we are still lowering. Like, they started lowering about 5 scenes ago. They have Chris hanging in a shopping cart, and they're slowly lowering the basket down. Guess what? 20 minutes later, we're still lowering the basket down to the ground. So Hunter arrives at Dr. Sadikoy's headquarters, and she's sneaking around. When she hears Sadikoy start thinking about having the boy and getting the crystal, taking over the world and all that good stuff. We go back inside. Chris opens the bag he was in, and there is the little tiny puppet, Dr. Sadikoy, who's supposed to be like a little mini mutant. And it turns out that Dr. Sadikoy, that is not Dr. Sadikoy, that is little Sadikoy. That is a little mutant on Dr. Sadikoy's hand, because Dr. Sadikoy is this giant behemoth of a man behind it. So yeah, the whole Dr. Sadikoy we've been seeing the entire time is a mutant on the real Dr. Sadikoy's hand. So from here on out, we will have Big Sadikoy and Little Sadikoy. Big Sadikoy says he gets what he wants. Everyone must die. Rock and rule. Kill or destroy. Move it or die. And he will freak out in the darkness. He just goes on this fucking rant. Never really has a point to it. So Hunter sees Big Sadikoy with Little Sadikoy, and she yells for Sadikoy, and he ignores her. She yells it up for his name twice. She doesn't seem to like the killing all the sisters plan. Part of his plan. He says he will kill them all. He will kill all the sisters and take over the world. She says, "Oh yeah, eliminate the CORB, and then you'll share your kingdom with me, right?" He asks if she's completely worthless and to give him the crystal. So she's like, yeah, basically she gets told to fuck off and throw out down the crystal. So she throws a small bag down, and of course it isn't the real crystal. Dr. Sadikoy orders the guards to stop her. She basically skates away, goes to leave, and there's one fucking guard. Not multiple, one fucking guard in the way, and she's like, just step aside, dude. The guard literally just says, nuh-uh. So she fucking stabs him and skates away. We then cut a little further where Hunter is skating away. Dr. Sadikoy, Big Sadikoy, puts a bounty on Hunter. And he says, whoever kills Hunter and brings back the crystal, I will share my kingdom. We cut to Hunter walking on the beach. She's just walking on the beach. She's already dropped her bag and left her skates back at the front. But she's having flashbacks to her and Sharon. And then the 3 wise guys approach her as she is staring into the waves. We now get a small fight scene in its ninja style fight. The guys basically, if you don't know what ninja style fighting is in the 80s movies, it's when guys basically when you're fighting like three or 4 people and they attack you one at a time. Yeah, that's the kind of fight we get. So she beats the crap out of all three of them. They run away saying, "Bros that do not kill shall hurt." What? I chuckled at it. It was a funny line, but still. So now Marshall Goodman has reached a great chasm, and apparently he took Sister Sharon all the way back to the mission and locked her up in the jail before going back on his quest. They of course have not taken her skates away, and she prays to be safe from the prison. We then cut to Gideon the dog from earlier, who's wearing a full-on nun tunic, walks up to Waco, who is still lying dead on the ground, and wakes him up. I don't know if he was dead or not, but he wakes Waco up. And Waco looks at the dog and says, "I've got a feeling my life's going to change." So Waco goes on. He finds this guy, this homeless guy, sitting in a corner with a colander, you could call it, or a strainer on his head, a metal strainer on his head, playing a harmonica. And he talks to the guy for a second. Waco tells the man he needs help finding the guys who robbed him. The stranger says, "Oh yeah, they're over there." So Waco basically goes the way the homeless man said, and walks right into the spikers. And of course they jump him and beat the living shit out of him. Waco grabs a radio that he took off. He's the one who found the I didn't know if I said this way. He's the one who found the dead deputy, and took his radio off of him. So Waco has the radio, asks for forgiveness and to be saved. Now somehow Sister Sharon, who is not in prison anymore, like she just not in prison anymore, rolls up and she does the switchblade healing thing on him. He stands up and we are back to the spikers beating the shit out of him. Like she skates away, he gets up and the spikers like, "Oh yeah?" Beat the shit out of him again. They leave and he leaves their area. He sees the strainer guy again and says, "Wrong 3 guys." The strainer guy looks and goes, "Ah, you must be looking for the 3 wise men. Yeah, they're over there by the acid ring." Okay. We go back to Big Sadakoi, who is now lowering something covered in aluminum foil. And he decides to go ahead and look at through his satoscope before the thing in aluminum foil, drops all the way. Many Sadakoi can't figure out basically wants to know what's under the foil. Well, it turns out that under the foil is a naked woman, because we have not had enough nudity in this movie. Let's go with another full butt-ass naked woman. Let's go. He tells the lady he may be little, but he has big ideas, which got a little giggle out of me. Then he starts like chewing on her breast, like kind of like sucking on her breast, and that. Meanwhile, Big Sadakoi he's going on about needing Mecha Company or Mecha Co. across the river to establish world domination. That they keep, I guess, Medico, Mecha Co. I keep saying Meta. Mecha, MECCA. Mecha Co. Keeps making weapons, energy weapons. And he wants to basically go across, steal them, and take over the world with them. Once his thruster is ready, Mechaco will be his. Is what he's saying. Meanwhile, little Sadakoya starts going south on the woman, and we get a full-on close-up of her of her vagina, and yeah, it kind of blew me away a little bit there. Big Sadakoi pulls little Sadakoi away from the woman so he can see his plan. Big Sadakoi says he only needs the crystal to ignite the thruster. Meanwhile, the woman frees her arm and basically just snatches little Sadakoi back and goes, "Hey, no, you're not done yet." And basically puts him back on her breast. And that's where the scene ends. We go back, we get Goodman and Waco skating to their destinations. Waco's looking for the 3 wise guys, and of course, Goodman is going to look for Dr. Sadakoi. Waco meets up with Goodman, and Goodman helps him up. Waco tells him he was given a second chance, and he is determined to use it. Goodman tells Waco to set his radio to the holy frequency. And he tells Waco to skate around to the front of the building. He was going to go in the back. Waco tells Goodman to find his boy, and he'll take care of any trouble. Now we cut over to Hunter skating, and then back to Goodman entering the base. Then we cut back over to Sharon, who has just now reached Harmonica Guy. Hunter keeps hearing voices in her head as she fights to choose good or evil. Goodman is walking around Sadakoi's base. We cut back to Hunter. This is where everything just gets convoluted a little bit. We cut back to Hunter as she finally reaches Strainer Hat Guy. He gets pissed, gets up and tells her not to go any further. He tells her she won't be the one bringing the crystal to Sadakoi. She's like, well, who's going to stop me? He goes, well, my friend Smith, Wesson, Colt, Luger, Bazooka, Uzi, Little Uzi, and this just keeps going. So she just punches him in the mouth and kicks the shit out of him. And then in her mind, she hears Miss Mother Speed's voice saying, do not use blows that injure. And she just goes right past him. We now cut to Sharon, who appears to have made she kind of appears to have made it to Dr. Sadakoi's base, but then she meets up with Hunter and asks why she betrayed the sisterhood. Hunter says she was wrong and she's returning the crystal. Sharon doesn't believe her and attacks, and then they kind of, you don't really get to see the fight, but they start fighting. Goodman is basically at the acid rink, and there's no sign of Chris. Deputy Samuel, that was deputy's name, has been knocked out, I guess, when Sharon escaped, which we still don't know how or why or when, because they didn't show us. Marshall Goodman is then pulled up by basically a rope comes around his skates, and it's like that old Bugs Bunny where they go, whoop, and the rope like locks around his wheels. He gets pulled up and hung upside down by his skates. The wise guys have basically trapped Goodman. They tell him to stay put because Dr. Sadakoi has his kid hanging over a vat of acid, and if he tries to escape, they'll tell Dr. Sadakoi to drop him. So they tie Goodman up, but in the background we can hear Sharon and Hunter fighting. So the wise guys go to see the commotion. We cut back just in time as Hunter gets Sharon down the same way she did before, and she repeats that you can only be defeated if you want to be defeated line from earlier. Sharon now trusts her all of a sudden, and Hunter asks for forgiveness. They make up. Well, apparently the wise guys are very bad at tying people up, though, because Goodman's already untied himself. And then the wise guy who has the crossbow aims his crossbow at Sharon, but Waco hits him with his cart, and instead he shoots Hunter. Sharon says a sister can only be healed. Basically, Hunter goes down. Sharon's crying because a sister can only be healed once. They can't heal her again. Hunter says to go find the boy. While in the background, Waco's beating the shit out of the guy who shot him. And Hunter dies. Hunter's dead. Hunter dies. But then one of the third wise guy rolls back around and steals the crystal from Sharon as she is mourning Hunter. And he skates away to bring the crystal to Dr. Sadakoi. Marshall Goodman appears and tells Sister Sharon, Hunter is dead and the crystal is stolen. Or Sister Sharon tells him that Hunter is dead and the crystal is stolen. Goodman says now they need to kill Dr. Sadakoi to save his son and the crystal. The third wise man reaches Sadakoi's headquarters and throws Dr. Sadakoi the crystal. Dr. Sadakoi tells the wise guy to watch the boy, make sure nothing happens to him. He argues with Little Sadakoi. Then him and Little Sadakoi start arguing over who's going to drive, and he says Little Sadakoi is going to be the navigator. Okay. Marshall Goodman and Sharon are now over the pit. It almost looks like the pit that the girls were catfighting in earlier. Goodman drops down because he sees something. He says Chris is down there. Sharon goes on. Goodman then fights. Basically, the spikers show up, and Goodman gets into a fight with them. Waco shows up, saves him again, and Waco basically just beats the shit out of the two spikers. While Goodman finishes the other one off. Waco then basically fights the third wise guy and ends up shooting him. He just fucking shoots him. Basically, most of this part of the movie is Goodman, Sharon, and Waco sneaking around slowly. Goodman finds Chris and basically tries to save him. He runs over, Chris, my God, my child. The other wise guy shows up. I guess the wise guy shot Waco. That's right. The other wise guy shows up. The one who gave Sadakoi the crystal, and burns him off. Basically, him and Goodman fight, and Goodman burns his arm off, and he throws his arm in the acid vat and holds it there. It burns off, and then Chris just the one that they're basically about to drop Chris into, and then Goodman just picks him up and throws his ass into the acid. Sadakoi says interference is futile and drops what looks like Chris, basically a big bundle into the acid. And everybody thinks it's Chris. Saren sneaks up behind Sadakoi and threatens to kill little Sadakoi if he doesn't release Chris. Okay, I missed the part where basically someone shoots and little Sadakoi has been basically by this point someone has shot at Sadakoi and knocked little Sadakoi off his hand because Sharon walks up and threatens to kill little Sadakoi if Big Sadakoi doesn't release Chris. Little Sadakoi throws acid onto her and escapes. Sister Sharon turns and just strips out of her clothes. Now here's the thing. Here's the funny thing about that. Not once do we see any kind of nudity out of Sister Sharon, but she just spends most of the rest of this movie topless. But they do such a good job hiding the breasts that we don't even notice it. Like, you don't get to see him. So Sadakoi pulls out his own switchblade. Now we have a knife fight between topless Sister Sharon and Dr. Sadakoi. They struggle for a minute against each other. Sadakoi pushes her with... Okay, maybe he hadn't... Okay, little Sadakoi hadn't been detached yet. I'm so sorry. My notes are bad. But Sadakoi basically punches her with little Sadakoi. And again, in that whole sequence, we still haven't seen Sister Sharon's breasts. Waco shows up, and he shoots little Sadakoi off of Big Sadakoi's hand. Sadakoi grabs the crystal and basically runs away. He's escaped, but little Sadakoi is still crawling around. She skates over and tells Waco she cannot save him a second time. Waco dies somehow, or for some reason he dies. And they are still doing the best. Like, she's covering her breasts up hard. She does end up kicking little Sadakoi at some point because he's trying to bite her. So Sharon has found a flannel shirt, and now she's just basically skating around in the flannel shirt and her thong. Sharon finds Chris alive. Like, he wasn't in the bundle that dropped into the acid. He's alive and well. She returns him to Marshall Goodman. Sadakoi enters his lab and basically places the crystal on the thruster. And now we see that the thing that was being worked on in the credits is Dr. Sadakoi's thruster, which is basically like a rocket put on one of those mechanic sliders that they use to get in and out from underneath the car. He hops on it like he's riding a fucking missile, and little Sadakoi appears like, "Hey, come on, boss, let's go. We're getting ready to go." Apparently, Big Sadakoi doesn't see him or hear him because he hits the rocket, and little Sadakoi gets fucking roasted like a marshmallow in a campfire. He hits the thruster, and he goes to take off. Little Sadakoi is dead. So Big Sadakoi is heading towards the ramp that's aimed at Mekiko, and Sharon just pops up beside the ramp. He tells her, get out of the way, as he's still going fast at it. Thruster appears to be one of those... He has a missile on the thruster. He fires a missile at her. She dodges it. And he hits the ramp. And as he hits the ramp, she throws her switchblade at him, and it hits him in the leg or something. And it throws him off his trajectory. And he ends up falling off the thruster and into a cavern and dying, like the cliff, off a cliff between the two cliffs. and Dr. Sadako is now dead. The thruster flies away, hits Mexico, and blows up. So now we not only killed Dr. Sadako, we've killed the small industrial city that is creating energy weapons. The crystal itself has also been destroyed, and Sister Sharon tells Goodman that she now realizes that the power lies within. We cut to the mission where they are burning Hunter's body in, out of respect, kind of like a Viking funeral almost, except on a pedestal on an altar. Then we cut to Mother Speed blessing Chris Goodman and one other person. I think it was Deputy Samuel. And that's how the movie ends. Roll credits. That is Rollerblade. Holy shit. Like, I that was just brutal. Yeah. The back and forth we'll do. I know I forgot to do my ratings last week for Babysitter Massacre. I'm gonna make sure I do ratings for this because Babysitter Massacre was good. I think I ended up with like a 3. It could have been better like with Babysitter Massacre if they had told us names and stuff like that and actually showed us the kills. But I think 3 is pretty good out of 5. But we're still talking Rollerblade. So let's get some trivia out of the way. Rollerblade was released in July of 1986. It was not a theatrical release. It went straight to DVD. Director Donald G. Johnson, who's most well known as the director of the Roddy Piper movie, Hell Comes to Frogtown, had 43 writing credits to his name and 41 directorial credits. He made several more Rollerblade movies, such as Rollerblade Warriors Taken by Force, The Rollerblade 7, Legend of the Rollerblade 7, and The Return of the Rollerblade 7. His final director-writer credit was in 2002 for The Ghost of El Chupacabra. His second film was, and this is interesting to me because I've actually heard of this movie. I haven't seen it yet though. Was a pro wrestling documentary about the legendary Sheik. The Sheik is a wrestler who wrestled mostly in Detroit and Minnesota in the basically the northern part of America. Went on a few tours of Japan and that. But he made a documentary about the Sheik called "I Like to Hurt People," starring Abdullah the Butcher, Dusty Rhodes, Andre the Giant, Ox Baker, Bobo Brazil, Sky Lolo, Dick the Bruiser, Dory and Terry Funk. Dory Funk Jr. and Terry Funk. It's a brilliant movie, and it's just great, especially if you like the Sheik. Sheik was a very hardcore wrestler, a lot of blood in his matches. So yeah, get a chance, check that out. Donald Jackson did die of leukemia in 2003. So he is no longer with us. Rest in peace. He also directed a movie called Rollergator, which featured a small purple jive talking alligator, and it is a family movie, by the way. So moving on, the budget of this film was less than $5,000, and if you watch this movie, you know they spent the $5,000 was spent on the women getting naked. Yeah, that's it. They didn't spend $5,000 on sets. They didn't spend $5,000 on makeup. Maybe some cameras, but this is not a well shot movie or a well lit movie. As I said before, it was only released on VHS. There was no theatrical release. It became a hit. It actually became a hit in movie stores and made no less than $1 million. Which was enough to spawn the 4 sequels. I don't know if I'm going to watch these or not. But surprisingly enough, there is no more trivia. Like, there's no more out there about the filming or the behind-the-scenes stuff of Rollerblade. I've talked to a few people who have heard of the movie and they kind of enjoy it, but yeah. See any interesting user reviews? There are no rollerblades in this movie. Yeah, there isn't. basically, from what I'm seeing here, is there's a lot of people complaining about the gratuitous nudity. I'm not going to complain about gratuitous nudity. I'm not going to complain about nudity at all. Sometimes nudity actually helps the movie, and it's about the only thing really enjoyable about this movie. So let's get into a final review. So this was a struggle to get through. It is 1 hour and 45 minutes. That includes credits and that. You can skip through a lot of this movie. I think a lot of it, I think it would have been a lot easier watching them, maybe through it a lot easier if they had not skipped around so much when it came to the cut scenes. Um, just finish a scene before cutting to someone else, or cutting to another scene. Between that, the fighting could have been better in the movie. In all honesty, you get more action out of the girls cat fighting in the beginning, for the demons, than you do in any of the other fight scenes in this movie. Um, it's just, yeah, and the sound is off, the lighting is terrible. Just, I'm gonna give it, let's go 2.5 roller skates, because I won't watch this again. I'll tell you that I won't watch it again. Um, I'm not gonna. I don't like telling people whether to watch a movie or not watch a movie. I don't suggest subjecting yourself to this, but if you like cheesy, low budget sci-fi, go ahead, give it a whirl. But at the end of the day, I won't watch this movie again. Um, that's about it. I mean, that's the best way to put it. It's a 2.5 roller skates, and I hope everybody. So I hope everybody enjoyed the podcast. I got to get ready to go. We're going to SmackDown tonight. Hopefully, you guys see me. You won't see me you won't see me on TV because I'm gonna be way up top. Um, so I hope everybody had a great time. I hope everybody gives us another listen to. Follow us on Facebook at the Bloody Binge Watcher Movie Group. Follow us on Twitter at the Bloody Binge Watcher Movie Podcast. Follow us on Twitch, YouTube at the Bloody Binge Movie Watch, at the Bloody Binge. What is it? The Bloody Binge Watcher or Binge Movie Podcast is what it is on YouTube as well. All the links should be around. Keep an eye out for next week. We're going to do something next week. I think we're going to do horror again next week. I enjoyed horror. If you got any suggestions, feel free, drop them in one of my inboxes. You could also follow me on Facebook at Stephan Stephan Henderson. And just, guys, have fun this weekend. Be safe, and keep watching some really, really bad movies. Have a great one, guys.